Hello and welcome to a very special interview. We have with us Baroness Verma. She's an Indian English politician. She's also a member of the House of Lords. She's been a former Under Secretary for International Development, and she also works around women's issues and also manages an NGO for adolescent girls. Thank you for speaking to WION, Baroness Verma. Since you work around adolescent girls, an interesting question here is, what are the barriers that stop these adolescent girls from speaking about violence, and how can governments and civil societies ensure that their voices are heard?
So, Jessica, it's a really interesting question, and the important thing first of it all is that we need to make sure girls get access to good quality education. That in the home, that we start to teach and pray to respond to our girls in the same ambition as we do to our boys. And then we need to make sure that the way to go to work, the way to go to universities and colleges is safe. And of course there are issues around adolescent girls, issues around menstruation, spaces that are there safe for them to be able to go and be able to feel that they can be clean. And so I think the general conversation has to change. It can't just be governments. Governments cannot do these things on their own. It has to be a social norm change where we actually appreciate the girl's needs are going to be different to those of a boy.
Absolutely. And Baroness Verma, interestingly, a country like Rwanda can have 50% parliamentarians. It's easy for them to not knock the court's door anytime any women's issue comes up. It's their parliament and that passes the bill. For example, they criminalize marital rape. They didn't have to knock the court's doors because they could do it in their own parliament by passing a simple bill. How difficult does it get in India to do that, or perhaps even in the United Kingdom?
So in the UK we've done a lot. We have worked very, very hard to make sure that women's rights, protection, the ability to be able to feel protected has been on the top of the agenda of the government I was in. This Prime Minister we have has been a champion for as long as I've known her. In India, I think it's got work to be done. I think there is progress being made in the rhetoric. I think let's make the rhetoric into reality. I know Prime Minister Modi has really worked hard to promote the girl child, educating the girl child. I think that has been a wonderful slogan of Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao. I think that is something that we should all resonate with. But it can't be just one person. I think the fact that it has a ripple down effect is what is needed. And I would really, really support what Prime Minister Modi is trying to do here.
And would you support his, criminalizing husbands for triple talaq? Would you accept that bill? It's been passed in the parliament right now in India, and the husband will now be criminalized for giving instant triple talaq to their wives.
Absolutely. Why should a female not have the protections of the law with her? Why should the female feel that a man can come and completely decimate her life within 3 words? I don't think that should be acceptable to anyone. And I hope that all the females in India, across the world, support any type of policy, any type of legislation that protects females. I don't think it's right in the 21st century that women should suddenly find themselves abandoned without any hope to recourse. I don't think that's acceptable. I'm absolutely behind Prime Minister Modi for doing that.
And how do we raise more awareness and empathy perhaps for gender equality?
So look, at the end of the day, the impetus is on all of us. We all start at home on how we respond to a boy and a girl. And I think it's really, really important that we see ourselves as being able to do the same things that everybody else should be allowed to do. I grew up in a conservative family, but I wanted to make sure that my gender did not get in the way. I wanted to make sure my colour didn't get in the way.
That's perhaps why you said that you were the only 2 non-white kids in a school, perhaps.
Yeah, and it was hard, it was tough. Growing up, being told that you cannot do things because of your race or your gender it irks me, and I don't think we should accept it. And I think today, when I look around, and you cited Rwanda as a country, the great thing about it is, although I don't believe in the quota system, but I believe in Rwanda there has been a sea change of a lot of other things. I mean, President Kigali was the first president on the planet to ban plastic bags. It's an amazing thing to be able to do. So I think we should learn from each other.
Absolutely, there's more space to learn. But now let's shift focus to Brexit and India's trade with the United Kingdom.
No.
Interestingly, is it going to be a truly global Britain post-Brexit, and what's in it for India? I mean, Britain's already looking for a potential free trade agreement with India there.
So look, we had a referendum. The people of the UK spoke. We are going to have a Brexit in 2019, and we are preparing for it. The country is in negotiations. We've issued Article 50, which means we now have 2 years in which to complete a trade agreement with Europe. Let's get that sorted. In the meantime, we have special relationships across the globe and historical ones. Now, for me, as a person of Indian origin, I'm really looking forward to a stronger tie with India. I think we've not done enough in the past. I think we've been lackluster in our approach. But I know that going forward, there's a lot that we are going to do as a country with working with India. And I know Indian companies are really looking forward to working with us in the UK. The one thing that I would say is that UK has always been a trading nation. It knows how to trade. And the thing is, the relationships will be different, but they will still be strong relationships, and we've got to make them strong. I tell everybody, UK is open for business. We're going to keep it open.
Right, and since you've been a Conservative Party whip for a very long time, so question here, since the party came to power in 2010, it has aimed to cut net migration, which includes, of course, Indian and other non-EU students and workers as well. Interestingly, how ironic is it that UK now insists on strengthening relationships with India all of a sudden, and at the same time feeling trapped in the fear of being isolated by European Union? Or perhaps you think that's far-fetched, but doesn't that suggest that, you know, UK needs India more than India needs UK here?
So I look at the globe. I don't look at us as a country on our own. We have been part of Europe. We will remain part of Europe. We just won't be part of the Union. I think we've always had a strong relationship with a number of Commonwealth countries. In fact, we, as a strong member of the Commonwealth, have always worked well with the Commonwealth. We haven't isolated ourselves. You talk about student numbers. Now, I agree with you. It's been an issue that I have also irked on. I think that, you know, we have the benefit of some very bright people coming to the UK, and we shouldn't count them in the numbers. I'm hoping that eventually that will change. But I do think that let's not mix global trade with student numbers. Student numbers is a standalone issue. I would like to see it resolved. But global trade, particularly trade with India, I think will grow. I think we've got to work hard. You know, India is one of the biggest emerging economies on the planet. I am so proud of that. As a British Indian, it makes me feel very, very happy. And that's why I want to be part of the journey. I have taken and I bring people from UK business delegations, I bring them to India to show them the vast opportunities here. And I'm now looking at doing Indian businesses to UK. So I think there's a great opportunity there. We've got to work hard at it.
Absolutely, but latest figures reveal that there has been 50% drop of Indian students going to study in the United Kingdom since 2010, and for many that goes on to suggest that UK no longer welcomes international students. That's a familiar perception, I'm sure you also know. But does the Theresa May government have any plans to change this narrative, or perhaps make students feel more welcomed in the United Kingdom?
We have seen lots of students coming to UK. Our numbers are not going down, our numbers are increasing from different parts of the world. But you're right, like I said, I agree with you. I don't want to see students in the immigration figures. I'm hoping that the government will change that approach, and me, like many, will lobby for that to happen. We see great value in the bright and the best coming to our country, but we also see, I would love to see British students coming to Indian universities.
Well, why do you think that doesn't happen often?
I think it's work in progress. I think we need to work harder at it. I think we need to be able to see the potential. I think India needs to see the potential of making those relationships much more. The world is getting smaller.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, so we have to work harder.
Also, going back to the fact that when Theresa May was Home Secretary, and since you've been living there, since 1960 perhaps, she has a track record of being unsympathetic to India. If one may recall, in 2013, she sent vans which had this written on them, and I quote, "Go home or face arrest." That was brutal. So what did you do then to address this?
So I think, look, that was a really bad campaign. Whoever thought of it I didn't see what the consequence of that was. People like me were extremely offended by it. But it didn't last very long either, because I think the country genuinely was very angry about it, and that campaign was stopped in its tracks. So I think the British people, by and large, are extremely sensitive to how we approach people coming into the UK. I think that should be something that all countries should do. I think we should have a sensitivity to all newcomers coming to our countries.
Absolutely, but even for the visa fees, India has been negotiating for a free trade agreement with the European Union for the past decade. They have been unsuccessful. European Union wouldn't allow migrants, and India wants to send a lot of its workers to the UK, and it wants visas for its workers in the UK. That has perhaps been a very big barrier. How do you think this government is going to address this?
So I think, Jessica, let's look at the visa system. Let's look at the levels at which people who go for the high end, the knowledge-based job applications don't have any difficulties. But remember, we do have a country where we also have a lot of people that need to be employed. And those jobs need to be filled first and foremost by the locals. Because if we constantly are filling the low-end jobs from outside, then our people remain unemployed. And I think really realistically, let's look at what is really taking place here. There has never been a barrier for people who actually offer something that cannot be met within our country. So I refute your point that you're making, that there is this discrimination going on, because we have some extremely talented people coming from India.
So dependency on India, China, US or perhaps Asian and other Commonwealth countries would increase when we talk about trade in particular?
I think that's always been growing. I think what we need to now do is work on what those free trade agreements will look like. And for me, as I said to you before, I have for a long time brought delegations to India. I think it has been a phenomenal place to be able to invest in. And for me, I want to see a lot more. But we have to get the free trade agreements right, government to government. But in the meantime, it does not stop people from coming and investing.
Right, and in the past, we've seen bitter fights emerge from the House of Commons as well as the European Parliament, where in fact we heard not Michel Barnier but other EU officials. In fact, Donald Tusk came out and said that if Britain expects to be welcomed with a cake, I think they're wrong. We're going to welcome them with salt and vinegar. That was perhaps one of the remarks I remember from the whole negotiation timing that was, or the negotiations deals that were being struck between United Kingdom and European Union. Do you think if the politicians indulged in these bitter talks or bitter fights, is this going to help United Kingdom at all?
Look, I'm chairman of the European External Affairs Committee in the House of Lords. I do a lot of work around the impact of Brexit on goods. And I can tell you that as a committee, what we have urged is sensible, intelligent dialogue and debate. I have never, which is why I come to the point of what you said about women in politics, I have never agreed with this macho, door-banging, table-slamming type of language. I don't think it achieves anything. I think most people, whether they are Brit citizens or Indians, they like to see sensible debate. And sensible debate happens when there, I'll come to that point again, more women involved in the talks.
So you see our relationship strengthening even more from here on?
I think our relationship will be a very different but very strong relationship. Ultimately, it's in our benefits. I mean, we have an extremely strong diaspora there. The diaspora has been the linchpin that has kept everything together for so many years. I hope it gets recognised better by both the British government and the Indian government. And I think that going forward, what I'd like to see, what I'd really like to see, genuine interactions on both sides.
Absolutely. And if you recall, David Cameron's election campaign was very similar to what Prime Minister Narendra Modi's was. In India, it was Ab Ki Baar Modi Sarkar, and Prime Minister David Cameron back then had copied it and replaced his name with Ab Ki Baar Cameron Sarkar. That kind of going around and pleasing the ethnic minorities, did that go well? Did that go down well with the ethnic minority there, especially the Indian diaspora?
See, look, the Indian diaspora has changed its approach to politics. In the past, it was very much one political party was supported more than the others. The educated young Indian, Brit Indian, actually has become very much about what is in it for me? How does it impact on me? The educated Brit Indian doesn't just go for some slogan, some little chant.
But you had to give it to Cameron. I think this was good.
No, Cameron did a lot, but Cameron, it wasn't just about elections for Cameron. They saw the growth of the diaspora community. They know that the changing winds in UK mean that people who want to genuinely win have got to reach out and win all the hearts of all the people, and not some of the people in some of the places.
Absolutely, but we've seen a lot of racist attacks on Indians as well in the past. It's talking about even acid attacks in particular. There was one in June and then another one a month before that and a month after that. It continues. Do you think it's only targeting Asian? What happened in the United Kingdom? In fact, Acid Survivors Trust International says the United Kingdom has one of the highest rates recorded acid attacks in the world. It says most worryingly reports that in fact 2,078 acid attack crimes that were recorded between 2011 and 2016, only 414 have been registered. How is that even possible in a country like United Kingdom, where systems are in place, where development is, where politicians are fighting for their people's cause? How did they miss out a crucial issue like this, and especially for Asians, and a worrying problem for Indian diaspora as well there?
So I think let's take this first of all in a wider context. There were acid attacks not just on ethnic minorities, not just on Asian people. And in fact, there was a conviction very recently of a young man in a nightclub who's been jailed for a very long time over his splashing of acid against people in the nightclub. I think what I've read recently is that the supermarkets are all coming together to look at how they can push for legislation so that anything with acid content in it cannot be sold to anybody under the age of 18. I also think it's really important that those people who feel that they have become victims of acid need to come and report it, because reporting is the only way we're actually going to get people to be criminalized on. So I think there is a lot of work to be done. It's not a new phenomenon, it's just got much more press attention, I think, in recent days.
How safe is the Indian diaspora in UK now? They've been living there for a very long time. Perhaps there's a joke as well. When Lord Mountbatten was leaving India, all the Indians climbed that boat with him. And there we have a lot of Indian population now in the UK, approximately 1 million or more people of Indian origin in the United Kingdom. So does UK get bothered by that fact, especially when we saw Theresa May sending those vans and go home or face arrest sort of campaigns that she did when she was the Home Secretary back then? Does that instill fear in the diaspora there, or are they living peacefully perhaps?
So look, I grew up in the 60s in the UK, and it was a very different place. There was a lot of racism, there was no legal recourse. So I've gone through the difficult times of the 60s and 70s. And I think today we have enough laws in place to protect all the people all of the time. Those people have got to get up and report. And we have better reporting systems now. And the police are better educated towards it. The judiciary is better educated towards it. The hospitals are better educated towards it. And the schools are better educated towards it. But let me tell you one thing. At the end of the day, if we are going to stop bigotry, if if we're going to stop racism, gender discrimination, we've got to stop it. Each individual person has got to take responsibility. Now, I will say very frankly to most people, I have seen more discrimination within Asian communities than I do outside. And I'd like to see that stop. I think as communities coming together, there's only one fight. And that fight should be against any form of discrimination. And I mean any form. So whether it's race, gender, whether it's on gay, lesbian, whether it's on any of these issues, I feel we as community should stand up and fight for the individual. So to your point, has it increased? No. I think it's probably better reported. I think people since Brexit felt there was a license to come out and say what they felt they could say. And I felt it was up to communities to stamp that out. And you mentioned about the campaign. As I said, it was a bad campaign, badly thought out, badly managed, and it didn't get much life after a lot of British people.
You were talking about the discrimination that you see within Asians living in the UK. Tell us about that.
So look, Jessica, you know, and I actually witness it all the time, even when I'm in India. There is this thing about fair and lovely, colour. Now, if we are going to fight colour prejudice from other people, then we have to fight it against our own people. And I don't understand why it is allowed in this country, why you can buy creams that are supposed to make you look whiter, and then go out into the UK and say, that white person is discriminating against me. It really makes me very cross that we sit amongst our own communities to discriminate on that. Then you're a girl, you're discriminated against. How many Asian families do you know? Because I know many where they would much prefer that a boy was born. How many families do you know, out of all those many families do you know, you would prefer that that baby was a light baby rather than a dark baby? So if we can't stop those discriminations amongst ourselves,
we can't expect anything from the
why
world.
Why would we expect it from anybody else? Not
Perhaps.
Good enough.
So in that case, do you think that the world is changing and the biggest emerging powers are non-white?
I would hope that the emerging powers, wherever they are, I mean, I am a great fan of Africa. The continent of Africa to me is an exciting continent. It is full of potential, full of opportunity. And I'm really looking forward to that continent rising as an equal economic base to the rest of the world. So for me, the shift is going on. And hey, world, wake up.
My last question to you, something to end on a lighter note. What about the Kohinoor diamond? Will India even get it back? But the Ministry of Culture had said that that stone was a valued piece of art with strong roots in our nation and history. And the Modi government and the Indian Prime Minister was determined to get it back. This has been a problem between the both countries for a very long time. How does this government plan on addressing this?
All I'm going to say about the Kohinoor diamond is, wherever it is, everybody knows where it's from.
It's on Queen's crown.
Wherever it is, everybody knows where it comes from. And I think wherever it will be, it will add beauty to whoever has it and has vision of it.
But interestingly, David Cameron, once he was asked about when will India get the diamond back, he simply said, they are not having that back, was his answer.
I tell you what I would like to see much more of. Let me tell you what I would really like to see is the atrocities that happened in Amritsar, where I come from, where Jallianwala Bagh, where those innocent people were mown down. That to me...
And perhaps still waiting for apology, I guess.
That to me is something that I would really like to see addressed. I am born a baby of Amritsar. To me, that's a really close issue. So, diamond or no diamond is irrelevant. What is really relevant to me is that issue.
Well, it might be irrelevant for you and me, but I agree with you there. But, you know, a lot of it holds India's sentiments. It holds a cultural, historic value to it. But apart from that, interestingly, you brought up Jallianwala Bagh. You know, Britain still owes an apology. Are they going to apologize? I'm expecting one.
Shall I tell you what I'd like to see? I would like to see a recognition that innocent people were
Why
killed.
do you think that recognition hasn't come in yet?
Maybe not enough people have fought on it. Maybe not enough people have raised it. Maybe we're too preoccupied with things that we shouldn't be occupied with. For me, the rights of girls, the rights of people alive or dead are more important. Discrimination, fighting it, is more important. And that's what I've done. I've spent a lifetime fighting it. Why? Because as an Indian girl, born in a very conservative family, with a dark skin, I've had to suffer the pains from not just the white community, but from the Asian community too. And I don't want other girls growing up having to do the same. So this will be my mission. I will carry on doing it. And I want to see many, many, many more women in politics across the globe.
Absolutely. We hope the future is bright there. We leave it at that. Thank you, Baroness Verma, for speaking to me. All the best for all your work in the future.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.